one Saturday afternoon, I decided to watch the new SpongeBob movie with my mum, expecting to have a fun time. Okay, so then SpongeBob sniffed a pile of dog and enjoyed it. Honestly, I have no idea why I expected it to be good. The only thing I'd seen of it was the title of Dad's Reviews video, and also SpongeBob is well past the prime, and most of the time I am not optimistic about new movies and existing franchises, but oodly do I thought this would be fun. And ended the film in a coma. Okay, rewinding a bit because I'm probably talking faster than Usain Bolt runs. There's a Sandy Cheeks movie released onto Netflix and I watched it. And I was left wondering why it existed. And then remembered that Nickelodeon owned money-hungry pieces of garbage who will milk SpongeBob until the sun blows up. My hope for SpongeBob as a brand has been evaporated and is in heaven with the shoe from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. SpongeBob has had some low points that are lower than the coal mining children from the 1800s, but this makes the Splinter look like Citizen Kane. Because as god-awful as SpongeBob got sometimes, it was never so bad it simultaneously made me so annoyed with its obnoxiousness. I was tempted to put the finale of Star vs. the Forces of Evil on instead, and so bored it comatized me.
He said it! He said it!
This is an admittedly not atrocious concept for a movie. I mean, I like Sally, but somehow it wasn't just an awful movie. It was a movie that didn't know how to move it. Now, to save you from having to watch it, I'll explain to you why it sucks. That being said, you've probably already seen it. There's roughly 0 seconds of this movie that isn't the most obnoxious shit ever. And I get that this is for kids, but the original show is for kids, yet is not obnoxious. Most of the time. Also, the original show was aimed at normal children. This movie is seemingly aimed at children with a severe cocaine addiction. This is a live-action animation hybrid for some reason. And it's obvious that working on the live-action stuff wasn't exactly the crew's passion. The animation throughout the movie isn't Diary of a Wimpy Kid levels of bad, and has a similar style to Camp Coral and Sponge on the Run, just not as polished and generally worse. Squidward, why do you look like a Funko Pop? But other than the occasional animation fumble, the animation is fairly decent, unlike the live-action CGI which would fit in perfectly with a modern Marvel movie. And the live-action performances make the Ben 10 movies look like peak cinema. From an acting standpoint, but you knew that. But the acting is probably better than the story. Evil lab people scoop up Bikini Bottom from the ocean into a lab so they can make marketable pets out of the cast. And those people happen to be the people who sent Sandy to Bikini Bottom, which breaks the continuity of SpongeBob. But also, I don't care, and if you care about SpongeBob continuity, you belong in a lunatic asylum. The movie is mostly about Sandy's background and her origin in Texas, which is a pretty good idea, so surely they won't screw it up. They screw it up. They want to clone the cast of SpongeBob and sell them as pets to kids. Oh, I'm falling asleep writing this. But don't worry, I won't be sleeping. I've seen the bit where the villain lore dumps her motives onto the heroes. See, they hired a child actor to act the scenes, but then keyframed the face of the adult villain onto it, making the ugliest looking thing since Hoops. Now, looking at this, you probably get the picture, so I'm gonna move on. SpongeBob sucks in this movie. There's a scene in this where he goes around tickling the toes of everybody in the water park that is, for some reason, attached to the evil villain's base. He makes corny one-liners that last at every line of dialogue for some unholy reason. No, that's all he does, is he doesn't add anything to the plot. Well then why is he in the movie?
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-chingery. Money, oh money, oh I love thee.
And then remember that Nickelodeon on money-hungry pieces of garbage who will melt SpongeBob until the sun blows up. Also to enjoy the smell of dog. So, the protagonist of the universe sucks in this movie. What about the protagonist of this film? She's good, right? You know the answer to that, why do you ask? Sandy gets into a fight with snakes who look like copy and paste of the snake from Rango, only for one of them to bite Sandy and her to become critically Nikocado Avocado. She realizes she's in deep shit and calls her family for help. No, none of these family members are fleshed out. They're all plot devices. Nor do they add to Sandy's character. Speaking of Sandy, she has no arc. I guess she's torn between Bikini Bottom and going back to the family circus. But in the end, they just go and perform in Bikini Bottom, so she doesn't need to choose. She gets the best of both worlds. No character arc. But the rest of the family, they're not fleshed out on their plot devices, but they're kind of pleasant characters. Until they say they'll be proud of Sandy if her career is in Texas and if it isn't off. No, they don't subvert it, nor do they play it straight. They forget about it and never bring it up again. Because good writing be damned. Look, I just don't have the energy to go on a rant about that. The jokes aren't funny and none of them made me laugh. Only one of them made me smile, which was the dog hang glider joke. Big plot twist. The main villain, Tsunami, well, aren't you clever, was actually using Sandy's research to spy on Bikini Bottom. And despite it very obviously being a mistake on Sandy's part, the entirety of Bikini Bottom turn on her. While also the villain is defeated and becomes happy because she becomes a fish. How? Just watch the movie. I don't want to explain. I only have one last brain cell left. Oh, also Sandy and her family go to space because of weed. I've stopped having the energy to talk about this anymore. I'm gonna relieve my pain by murdering terrorists in Broforce. Underrated game of all time. No, this video is not sponsored. I'm not big enough. Please subscribe. We're all mad here.